Hi, Sergio. Thanks for joining me.
Buenos dias. Did I say it right?
Buenas tardes.
Thanks for having me.
It's after 12.
It is. You're right.
Well, thank you for joining me. For those of you who are tuning in, I am speaking with filmmaker Sergio Navaretta. I will let him introduce himself to you. So, Sergio, please go ahead.
Hi. Thank you, Heidi, for having me. I am a filmmaker, film director, and sometimes producer, father of an amazing niño who's named Luca. Yeah, I've been making films since, I guess, the mid-90s. I started in music previous to that, and now I'm here to talk about my latest film called The Cuban, starring Louis Gossett Jr., Ana Golja, Shohreh Aghdashloo, Holly, Giacomo Gianniotti, and so many other great actors, and music composed and performed by the great Hilario Duran, who many of you may know.
That's right. It's an excellent film. Thank you for going through the credits because it saves me some time. It's a really great cast of really wonderful actors, well known to many of us through film and also TV in the case of Ana and her Degrassi years. So as you mentioned, you are a filmmaker but also producer. You and your writing partner have Snap Films. So why don't we just start there in terms of you and your partner?
So Alessandra Pichon was an extremely successful scholar and academic, came from that world, and then made the insane decision to transition into the film space. But obviously she found it satisfying and exciting. We started our company several years ago, and our first feature film together was called Looking for Angelina, which was a true story about a woman who murdered her abusive husband with an axe on Easter Sunday. And into discussing very uncomfortable societal topics like domestic violence and also racism. You know, it's we all know in Canada that our history has been whitewashed, and a lot of that history is just not known. I mean, a lot of Canadians don't even know the KKK existed here, you know, operating alive and well. You know, we also have an ugly history. So for me, that film very much was a way, kind of a window into the past of Canadian history. And then, you know, we've been collaborating, and recently, I was one of the executive producers on an animation movie that Alessandra wasn't involved in. She was writing other projects. And so that was a 5-year journey, very long, long and intense experience and schedule. I learned a lot. And then I was kind of like fatigued and emotionally just burnt out and wanting to do something meaningful where I can get back in the director's chair. And that brought us to Cuban, which we collaborated on. Yes.
So my understanding is from reading about the film and hearing about it is that it was a conversation between Ana and another producer, and sort of this connection that many of the people in the team had to sort of Alzheimer's. So and sort of that started that conversation, and then the script came along, and you and your partner got involved. Is that right?
Yeah, the young first-time producer, Taras Colton, had a dream about his grandfather. And I think he was dealing with his own personal guilt about his disconnect with his grandfather. And around the same time, I was thinking a lot about my father, who had passed away suddenly at 71. And so we were just having discussions around stories that die with people, and all these legacies and histories that we'll never ever have access to again, and just how absolute and black and white that is. It's like once someone passes, that's it, unless you see them in your dreams, I guess, or feel them spiritually. But that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
Yeah, that's how it started, as a seed of an idea, and then of course when a screenwriter comes on board, she does a whole ton of research, and she went to Baycrest Hospital and met with scientists and doctors who were at the forefront of Alzheimer's research and really studying the effect of music on the brain. And then the whole, the Alzheimer's thing was an experience that I had with one of Alessandra's aunts who was in a nursing home, and she mistaken me for a soldier during World War II. And it was just the most bizarre experience, but for her, it was so real. And I just stood there because I didn't want to disappoint her. I wanted to support her in this delusion or fantasy that she was experiencing in her mind. And that was really the impetus, for it, and sort of the driving force behind it. Because a lot of times we as artists, as filmmakers, just want to make stuff and make cool film. And I'm beyond that point in my life. I really have a desire to tell stories that are important to me, that reflect some part of society or the human condition. So, yeah. So I guess the long answer, just to say that everybody involved in this movie had some personal connection to it, whether it was Louis Gossett or Shohreh or Ana or Taras or Alessandra. And then the list went on and on. I mean, everybody had some connection to it. The cinematographer, Ciliana Cardenas, had a similar thing with her mom. And so it's, very personal. Very personal.
Yeah, and I think it's very interesting and also timely, because what I do appreciate about the film is that many of us have elderly family members, and the aging population is increasing. And discussions around mental health in terms of dementia and Alzheimer's are also very important. So I appreciate the tone of the film in this regard, that it is there, it's very delicately sort of touched upon. It's not preachy or, in terms of that sort of energy in the film. I'm curious about how you worked with your cast, primarily Louis Gossett Jr. as Luis Garcia, and then Ana Golja as Mina, and what that friendship and that relationship was supposed to be, because they sort of they're the driving characters in this story. At least that's how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of that obviously stems from, my own personality. It's an extension of my respect for my elders, and maybe some of the guilt that I felt around, just being too busy to connect with the elders in my life and in my world. Traditionally in our cultures, whether it's in a village, a town square, or whatever, the elders are always at the center of it, at the backbone of our cultures and our society. And lately in the Western world, with everyone working and just the work days getting longer and our values being eroded, it's just like the gap is widening. And so I think a lot of the relationship, the chemistry between Mina and Luis really started off screen. It started with our conversations prior, and that's, I think, the luxury of doing an independent film, is that we have so much time to have dinner, to break bread together, to drink wine, and really talk about what's important to us. And I think with Lou, who's become a dear friend and a mentor, we really had the opportunity to get into a lot of these conversations, because maybe some of this stuff is on his mind, being that he's 84, and really sees himself as an elder. He wants to impart his experience and knowledge onto the younger generation. So that mentor-mentee kind of like apprenticeship relationship started off screen. And I think that the chemistry translated well when we actually put it together and put it in front of audiences.
Right. So in terms of your sort of preparation and filming, how long was it? Because I am aware that there was a Kickstarter campaign and all of that behind the scenes. But how long did it take from, your meeting, you're sort of talking about the film with your cast members and everyone else in the production team, to filming? Because you have, my understanding is 2 locations, right? You filmed in Ontario and in Cuba.
You did your research. Wow. You know more about this movie than I do.
Oh, well.
We shot in Brantford, Ontario, in Paris, because in Brantford there was a hospice that happened to be empty for 2 months.
Oh, okay.
And it was just kind of a serendipitous experience and just sheer good luck to have this place with everything still on the walls and intact. And then we stressed it to make it look a little more miserable. But so yeah, we shot there. And I think it took, like, it's strange. Sometimes when the gods of cinema shine on you and the universe aligns, like everything just happens quick. So I think in film terms, this movie came together fairly quickly. I think we're going on to our 4th year now, but I think within 2 years we were shooting or less. It's just something about it, you know, that's, it just like something about it was very special. And I think it just, because of that, everything moved fairly quickly. And then once Louis Gossett was attached, it started as a short film actually. And then we developed it into a feature film later. But yeah, it was, I guess, a short turnaround, but it felt like a long journey. It was emotionally draining and intense. And then the other part we shot in Havana, Cuba.
Mm-hmm. And how many days did you spend there?
I feel like we spent like more time prepping in Cuba than we did. I mean, way more time prepping than shooting. We only shot, I think, 3 days total. But we were there for like weeks just preparing.
Right.
Then, of course, in Cuba, all the preparing in the world you do, you just throw out the window and
just go with
show up on the day, and it's like, you know, it is what it is.
But that's kind of a nice vibe in terms of you being independent filmmakers and being able to just go with it as well, right? Because as you say, we can do all the research and then you show up and then things are going to happen out of your control sometimes.
Yeah, well, you know, we keep talking about living in the present moment, and I say this a lot, but Cubans live in the present moment just through sheer necessity. Like, there's no thinking about tomorrow or, you know, dreaming about 10 years from now. So the shooting style was very much the same. It was very on the fly and innovative in a sense, because, you know, you'd have one location and then suddenly you wouldn't, and oh, but we got this location, don't worry. And, you know, like, yeah, a lot of things were sort of invented on the spot, let's say.
Right. I think, I mean, it looks beautiful anyways towards the end of the film. So kudos to you for working in the moment, as you say. So I'm curious about your work with the editor for the film, Jane, right?
Jane, yes.
What was that process like? Because I'm sure there's a lot of material that you probably wanted to keep or didn't keep. And I find that a lot of us see the end result and we're kind of, oh, this is great. But we know there's a lot that happens that doesn't make it on screen.
Well, the good thing about it is usually you have a consecutive schedule. Like, they want to slam it in 12 weeks. I don't work like that. So we sort of like would do a rough assembly and then take a break. And then we come back and revisit and look at. So that's how I like to work. Jane is an incredibly talented and intelligent person. So she's able to see things, suggest things, and she understands pacing. She understands narrative. And so all that is really helpful for me because it really is a collective and collaborative art form. And we shaped performances. Like, we had cuts where Luis was more verbal, and then we said less is more. You know, the more enigmatic he is, the more fascinating he is. So now you just see his eyes and you want to know more. It sucks you in. And so so there's, you know, there's all that sort of stuff. And when you have brilliant actors, they give you a range.
Right.
So the other thing we did is really look at storylines, like maybe pulling back on some B or C stories and really focus on the main story. So we were able to, I just said one day, let's put up cue cards and then just move them around and just see what happens, you know? And so I love that process. It's so much experimentation goes into it. And then, you know, we pre-recorded the music. So she had the music to cut to, which was really great. I think she appreciated that. And then we used music therapy on set just to kind of get us through the day and whatnot.
That's very Cuban.
Yeah. Between takes, we're playing music. Well, for a Canadian crew, they were just like, what do you mean you're going to play music on set? It's like, yeah, we're going to play music on set. Yeah. And then by the second, third day, they were into it. Like, everybody was dancing. And Yeah.
And I think as Latin Americans, I will say that music is a big part of our lives. I clean and I cook to music, so I appreciate the music. And I'm glad that you mentioned that you had the music before editing, because I was curious about Hilario Duran's involvement in the film, and how soon he was on board, and what would that process is like. The music is really great.
Thank you. Gracias. Well, I can't take credit for it, even though I was there and
I know,
and giving my energy to it and whatever. But he's brilliant. He's a virtuoso, and he's just one of the greats. So yeah, having that music in advance was really helpful. And then he just trusted me to put it in the right places and you use it in the best way possible. So
I'm assuming he's seen the film.
He has, yeah.
What was his reaction?
Well, and because Cuban musicians generally, this is a big generalization, are perfectionists. Like they're very technically, like, you know. So I was like, oh man, because I had, with my music editor, we had gone and just fussed with it and changed a few things and whatever. So I thought that that would bother him, but he loved it. He loved the movie, he loved the spirit of it, and was really excited.
That's so
continues
cool.
to be, yeah.
Yeah. It seems like a really team effort in terms of the whole film, from its sort of seedlings of, you know, trying to get Louis Gossett Jr. on board to where it is now. So congratulations on opening at the Canadian Film Fest this year. That was pretty huge.
Thank you.
You're getting, from what I'm noticing on media, whether it's online or TV, you're getting some really positive reviews. And I believe that you did the Lavazza drive-in.
Yes.
That was this week that passed.
On the 20th, yeah.
Yeah, and there's another one coming up next week, Tuesday.
Yes, on the 28th.
Right. What's that experience like? Because I know I'm just shifting gears here, and I know that the release of the film in theaters is sort of a bit of a mirage now.
Yeah.
So what's this process like now that you know, it's sort of the audiences are consuming the film, appreciating the film in a different format, kind of?
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it other than, you know, when you're a little kid, you've been dreaming about something your whole life, and then your dream comes true. That's scary. So that's kind of what I'm going through now, is just like sleepless nights and just like, you know, trying to, I guess, savor the moment, because it's so fleeting, right? I could be not making a movie for another 10 years. Nobody knows. So it's the uncertainty of that. I really want to make sure that I'm present and really enjoying it all. But, you know, admittedly, COVID taught us so much about, again, having all these plans and then having to throw them out the window, because our plans were completely derailed, and you know, the universe had a different plan for this movie and for us. And so at a certain point, we started talking about drive-ins. You know, here's a safe way to consume content, to have a communal experience where everyone's in their own bubble, and conversations started, and apparently ICFF and Lavazza were having conversations simultaneously, and they had asked us if we would collaborate and then have our premiere there at opening night. So it was amazing. It was so glamorous. They had a drive-through red carpet. It was just, yeah, it was wonderful. So the old has now become new again, and now we're utilizing drive-in theaters across Canada to continue bringing the movie to the people. And in the US, a lot of art house cinemas have gone virtual. So they have their mailing lists and their films, cinephiles and fans that want to continue watching unique movies that aren't necessarily blockbuster hits and studio films. So that's what we're doing on July 31st in, I think, 30 or 40 cities, which is fantastic. I mean, it's
across the US?
Across the US, yeah.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know if we would have been able to do this pre-COVID. Who knows?
Well, I mean, it's forcing us to adapt, right? And I think it's also kind of relating it back to the film. It's about sort of, you know, adapting to the sort of uncertainties of Alzheimer's. And I speak from experience with my grandfather who has dementia. So, you know, as a family, we sort of adapt. You know, sometimes certain things will work and other things may not work.
Yes.
but I
Every
do.
day is different, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I think our experiences, at least in my families, were different from the character on screen. But I do appreciate that the conversation sort of being raised about the elderly and sort of what their ailments are at this stage of life. So for that, I do thank you, because it does allow us to discuss these sort of themes, aside from the fact that it's just a nice movie to watch as well.
And there's two things. There's our inability to deal with our own mortality. Mortality is something nobody wants to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And ageism, and it's not the sexiest thing on earth to talk about people aging, and that's why everyone dyes their hair and gets plastic surgery. It's like there's this tremendous fear about aging gracefully, and really embracing that, and that's part of what the film is about. Is really like, this is part of life. We need to embrace it, and rather than scolding our elders and saying, no, Dad, I told you, you're not a Jewish doctor, you're whatever, Italian chef, or whatever it is. Like, those are real stories that we sort of drew from. We need to support them in that, and just say, like, whatever they're feeling today, we're gonna go along with that, and really support them in that journey. So.
Excellent. Thank you so much. For those of us who are maybe not going to the drive-in or cannot make it to the drive-in on Tuesday, how can they find out about the movies? Their website, or?
Yes, thecubanmovie.com has all the listings and all the latest news, and it's being updated in real time, because obviously there's a lot of things changing minute to minute in this climate. So and that's the hub, and then of course all the social media channels that are pushing.
And the handles are all the Cuban movie.
Yes.
For all of them. Excellent.
Yes.
All right. Thank you so much, Sergio.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for watching the movie. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.